Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring 1990s Italian football,
Okay.
a period when Serie A was like the place to be.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a great article titled How Del Piero and Totti Heralded Italy's New Wave of Fantasistis, which is going to help us unpack the rise of two absolute icons, Alessandro Del Piero and Francesco Totti.
It's a fascinating period, right? Right in the heart of what some might call a tactical revolution in the sport.
Yeah.
Serie A was attracting the best players globally amidst massive investment from clubs.
Oh, wow.
Yet amidst this modernizing backdrop, you have these two players who embody this almost romantic throwback ideal of the Fantasistis.
This concept of the Fantasista immediately jumped out at me.
Yeah.
It's clearly a loaded term in Italian football.
Yeah, it is.
Could you give us a little more context for those who might not be as familiar with the nuances of this role?
Absolutely. The Fantasista is essentially the creative heart of the team, a playmaker who can orchestrate attacks and produce moments of magic. But in the history of Italian football, this role has often been seen as both a blessing and a curse.
Really?
Almost as though Italian football wants that flair and artistry, but isn't quite sure what to do with it tactically.
That makes sense. You see this tension between the desire for creative expression and the need for tactical discipline throughout the history of the sport.
Yeah, you do.
So how did Del Piero and Totti fit into this narrative?
Yeah.
How did they navigate this push and pull between individual brilliance and the demands of a more systematized game?
Well, that's what's so fascinating about their stories.
Okay.
They both emerged during this transition period. On the one hand, you had the legacy of players like Roberto Baggio,
Right?
this almost mythical Fantasista figure.
Yeah.
On the other, you had the rise of Arrigo Sacchi's AC Milan, with their emphasis on a more holistic, universal style of play.
Interesting.
It was a fascinating dynamic.
And what about their origin stories? I was struck by the contrast in their paths to becoming these iconic figures.
It really is a classic tale of two cities. Del Piero's journey started in a small town, and get this,
Yeah.
he began his football life as a goalkeeper. His mother worried about him getting injured.
Wait, what?
Can you imagine Del Piero between the sticks?
That's incredible. Fate clearly had other plans in store for him.
Right.
He ended up taking a more traditional route, progressing through Padova's youth system, and eventually landing at the powerhouse, Juventus.
Exactly. A more logical path, if you will.
Yeah.
In contrast, you have Totti, who is practically destined to wear the Giallorossi of Roma.
Okay.
He grew up idolizing Giuseppe Giannini, a true Roma legend.
Uh-huh.
The article mentions that he even rejected their rivals, Lazio, as a youngster.
Wow. That says a lot about his loyalty to Roma from a very young age.
It really does.
And his debut has that almost fairy tale quality to it.
Yeah.
A surprise substitution at just 16 years old, coming on for his childhood hero, no less. You have to wonder what must have been going through his mind at that moment.
It's the kind of story that captures the imagination of fans and creates those lifelong bonds.
Right.
I think it speaks to that inherent romanticism we associate with football, the idea that dreams can come true, even on the grandest stages.
Yeah.
But of course, we can't talk about this era without mentioning the elephant, or rather, the Fantasista in the room, Roberto Baggio.
Ah, yes, Roberto Baggio, the divine ponytail, an absolute icon of Italian football.
Oh, yeah.
His presence must have loomed large, especially for Del Piero at Juventus.
Absolutely. Baggio was the Fantasista of the early 90s, a true superstar.
Mm-hmm.
But his time at Juventus was coming to an end.
Okay.
And that's where Del Piero's story takes a fascinating turn.
What happened? I understand there was a bit of a transfer saga involving another player named Baggio.
Yes. Dino Baggio, a midfielder, was being considered for a move from Juventus to Parma.
Right.
And as part of the deal, Parma were interested in taking Del Piero.
No way.
Can you believe that? Almost a sliding doors moment.
So Del Piero was nearly shipped off before he even had the chance to shine. That's wild. What changed things?
Dino Baggio decided to stay put.
Okay.
This seemingly small decision had major ramifications.
How so?
Because Del Piero remained at Juventus.
Okay.
Now keep in mind that Roberto Baggio was still very much the main man up front.
Right.
Del Piero had to bide his time, wait for his opportunity.
Which, if I recall, came in the form of some unfortunate injuries for Roberto Baggio.
Exactly.
And Del Piero certainly seized the moment he started scoring crucial goals.
Yep.
The article even mentions a spectacular volley against Fiorentina.
Right. That goal announced his arrival in a major way. More importantly, it seemed to solidify manager Marcello Lippi's decision to move Roberto Baggio on in favor of building a team around Del Piero for the future.
A bold move, to say the least, especially considering Baggio's stature at the time. Did this put even more pressure on Del Piero?
Oh, yeah.
To inherit that legendary number 10 shirt, to follow in the footsteps of a player like Baggio?
Without a doubt. But Del Piero possessed this quiet determination.
Mm-hmm.
He was ready to carve his own path.
Yeah.
And he did it alongside Vialli and Ravanelli.
Right.
That attacking trio was unstoppable, leading Juventus to the 1996 Champions League title.
Wow.
An incredible start to his Juventus career.
Talk about making a statement. But their playing styles were quite different, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Del Piero and Baggio,
You're absolutely right. Del Piero played with this remarkable efficiency.
Okay.
He was all about directness, intelligent movement, and lightning-fast decision-making.
Huh?
There was a real rationality to his game,
I see.
almost like a chess player, strategically plotting his moves on the pitch.
Whereas Totti, well, he was something else entirely. Pure instinct, emotion, and those flashes of brilliance that leave you speechless.
Totally.
It's almost like their playing styles were reflections of their personalities.
It is uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Del Piero, the methodical, calculated striker,
Great.
and Totti, the free-flowing, unpredictable artist, but both incredibly effective in their own right.
Yeah.
And speaking of Totti's development, I think we need to talk about Zdenek Zeman's influence on him at Roma. Zeman was a manager known for his attacking philosophy. He gave Totti the freedom to express himself on the pitch, which really allowed him to flourish.
It sounds like Zeman recognized that Totti wasn't a player you could try to fit into a rigid tactical system.
Precisely. Zeman understood that Totti's strength was his creativity, his ability to improvise and create something out of nothing. He famously said that Totti was the 5 best Italian players rolled into one.
That's high praise. But it seems Zeman's faith in Totti was well-founded. After all, their partnership led Roma to that incredible Scudetto victory in 2001, ending a long title drought for the club.
It was a remarkable achievement for both of them. It highlighted the power of nurturing individual talent within a team structure. And it's fascinating to see how both Totti and Del Piero, despite their contrasting styles, were achieving success at the club level. Around the same time, Del Piero was leading Juventus to multiple league titles and Champions League finals.
It really was a golden era for both players and their respective clubs. But what about their international careers? This article touches upon the challenges they faced, particularly when it came to the staffetta dilemma.
The staffetta. A tactic that aimed to accommodate 2-star playmakers in the same lineup. It was first used in the 1970 World Cup with Gianni Rivera and Sandro Mazzola, but it resurfaced with Del Piero and Totti. It seems like Italian football has always struggled with how to best utilize 2 supremely talented Fantasistis.
It does seem counterintuitive. You'd think having 2 brilliant playmakers would be an advantage, not a tactical conundrum. What were the arguments for and against the staffetta, and how did it play out for Del Piero and Totti?
Well, the idea was to maximize their impact by rotating them, giving each player 45 minutes per game. But this approach had its drawbacks. It disrupted the team's flow, and neither player could truly settle into a rhythm.
So instead of complementing each other, it almost created a rivalry.
In a way, yes. The media and fans constantly debated who should start, who was more deserving of a place in the team. It must have been a difficult situation to navigate, both of the players and the managers.
And the article highlights some key moments in their international careers. For Del Piero, there were early struggles to replicate his club form and, of course, that heartbreaking penalty miss in the Euro 2000 final against France.
That was a tough moment for Del Piero, a major setback on the biggest stage. But he showed resilience and continued to be a key figure for Italy.
While Totti, on the other hand, had that iconic moment at Euro 2000, the Cucchiaio penalty against the Netherlands. Could you explain what that is for those who might know?
It's a penalty kick, where the player, instead of striking the ball with power, delicately chips it down the middle of the goal. It requires incredible nerve and precision. And in that particular moment, with the semifinal on the line, Totti executed it perfectly. It was a true Fantasista moment, audacious and brilliant.
That's the kind of play that becomes legendary. A perfect example of Totti's confidence and flair. And while they both had their ups and downs on the international stage, they were ultimately part of Italy's World Cup winning squad in 2006.
That must have been a special moment for both of them. To share in such a historic victory after years of individual and collective challenges, it's a testament to their perseverance and their ability to contribute to a team's success, even amidst intense scrutiny and debate.
And speaking of contributing to team success, we can't overlook their unwavering loyalty to their respective clubs. Del Piero sticking with Juventus through their relegation after the Calciopoli scandal.
It's a remarkable display of loyalty, wouldn't you say? To stay with a club through thick and thin, through triumph and adversity, it's something you don't see very often in modern football.
Absolutely. And Totti, a one-club man throughout his career becoming synonymous with Roma. These are stories that transcend the sport itself. They speak to the values of commitment, of passion, and a deep connection to something larger than oneself.
They embody a kind of romanticism that I think many football fans long for in today's more transactional, business-driven world of the sport. And it's interesting how the article summarizes their playing styles towards the end, almost as if to highlight these differences once again.
Right. Del Piero described as the hard-working, goal-oriented striker, and Totti as the free-roaming, creative force. It's a nice way to encapsulate their unique approaches to the game.
And what's even more remarkable is that they achieved this level of success at a time when the role of the Fantasista was being challenged by tactical innovations. The rise of a more systematized, universal style of play where every player was expected to contribute defensively and offensively could have spelled the end for the traditional Fantasista.
So, in a way, they were bucking the trend, proving that individual brilliance could still thrive even amidst a shift towards a more structured and regimented approach to the game.
Yeah, in a way they were.
It really does make you think about how they fit into that evolution, right? Were they the last of a dying breed, or did they manage to redefine the Fantasista role for a new era?
I think it's a bit of both. They certainly represented a link to the past, to those classic Italian playmakers who were given the freedom to create. But they also adapted and thrived in a more modern, systematized game. They proved that individual brilliance and tactical discipline weren't mutually exclusive.
That's an interesting point. They weren't simply relics of a bygone era. They were able to blend their artistry with the tactical demands of their teams. So if Del Piero and Totti represent this sort of bridge between the past and the present, what does their legacy mean for the future of the Fantasista? Is there still a place for that kind of player in today's highly tactical, data-driven game?
It's a fascinating question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. On the one hand, the game has become increasingly specialized. Every player has a clearly defined role within a complex system. It's all about maximizing efficiency, minimizing risk.
Which doesn't leave much room for improvisation for those moments of spontaneous brilliance that players like Del Piero and Totti were known for.
Exactly. And with the rise of data analysis, there's even more emphasis on predictability and control. Every pass, every run, every decision is scrutinized and analyzed. But on the other hand, I believe there will always be a need for creativity, for that spark of genius that can unlock a stubborn defense or change the momentum of a game.
So while the Fantasista role might evolve adapting to the tactical landscape, the core essence of what they represent, that ability to see and execute the unexpected, will always be valuable.
I think so. Think about players like Messi and Neymar today. They might not fit the traditional mold of the Fantasista, but they possess that same unpredictable quality, that ability to create something out of nothing that can make the difference between winning and losing.
That makes me wonder if, in a way, every team still needs a bit of that Fantasista spirit.
Yeah.
Maybe not always in the form of a single designated playmaker, but as a collective mindset, an openness to embracing creativity and improvisation within a structured framework.
That's a great point. It's about finding the balance between tactical discipline and individual expression. And I think that's ultimately what Del Piero and Totti's legacies teach us. They show that you can be both a brilliant individual and a valuable team player, that you can respect the system while still having the freedom to express your talent.
Well said. And for our listener, if this deep dive has sparked your interest in these two incredible players or the captivating era of 1990s Italian football, I encourage you to explore further. There's a whole world of stories, highlights, and tactical analysis waiting to be discovered.
Their stories around their contrasting styles and their unwavering commitment to their clubs make them enduring figures in the sport. They remind us that football at its best is a blend of art and science, of individual brilliance and collective effort.
A perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Alessandro Del Piero and Francesco Totti, two players who embodied the spirit of the Fantasista and left an indelible mark on Italian football.